for source inspection, we had meetings and stuff, and some of the guys had texted me that they're watching.
I was close.
Good evening, everyone. I am opening the meeting of the Bristol Township Planning Commission. I'd like to welcome all those in attendance and our viewing audience. Kindly stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you'll remain standing, to keep in mind our troops are in harm's way, our prisoners of war, our killed in action, our missing in action, for all those suffering this war in Ukraine, for all the babies children who were separated from their parents, and any personal intentions you may have. Thank you. And before we get into our agenda, we do have consideration of the June 6, 2023 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Commissioners, you all have copies of those minutes. You've had an opportunity to review them, and I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Moved in second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Commissioners. We have one item on our agenda this evening. It's a zoning map amendment petition. Environmental Alternative Solutions, Inc., 1226 Bristol Pike, Bensalem, PA, requesting to rezone 28 parcels from R-2 residential and M-1 light industrial zoning districts to an M-2 heavy manufacturing zoning district on the property located on Sylvie Avenue, Levittown, PA. Tax parcels number 5-74-50 through number 5-74-61, 5-74-70 through 5-74-81, and 5-7496 through 5-7499. Good evening.
Good evening. I think as a housekeeping matter, I think we should read all of the parcels individually for the record. All right.
So the first thing I'm going to do is to ask you to identify yourself for the record.
Okay, all right, you got me there. Good evening, Commission. Bryce McGuigan from Begley Carlin here on behalf of the applicant Environmental Alternative Solutions Incorporated and its owner, no worries, its owner Don Simons, who's sitting here with me. I know it's a packed audience, but obviously we're here ready to present. We appreciate your time. Specifically, there are 48 separate parcels here. Totals approximately 8 acres. We have here on the first page, just to kind of orient. It's kind of difficult to see with the glare and whatnot, but I do have copies for the board to take a look at, which might help, because these parcels are odd, to say the least. And I know the commission has somewhat of a familiarity here, being as, from what I understand, there was a prior rezoning petition for a neighboring property that may or may not have been brought before you a couple months ago. But here, give me a second. Let me just pass these around.
And it's amazing that he presented this and never asked, was I colorblind? Which by the way, I am.
We would have to take that up with the township because we took that from the township map.
Yeah, so Bucks County chooses the colors, not me.
Alrighty.
So I apologize for that.
It's not a problem because it's red and green. It's only for when I'm driving and I can't tell the traffic lights, so it doesn't make a difference anyway.
We'll wait a few minutes before we leave
Okay.
tonight. So this is a three-page packet, same as the presentation that's up on the board. But essentially, this is more clearly shows the 48 separate parcels at issue. And my apologies because it is a green line I used to circle the parcels. But essentially, we've got 48 parcels, 8 acres amongst the 48, and 3 separate zoning districts. You have M1 light manufacturing, M2 heavy manufacturing, and R2 residential. Their frontage is on a partially improved roadway of Sylvia Ave. This is, of course, in the neighborhood of Bristol Pike, Airport Road, and Sylvia Ave. And essentially what we're asking tonight is for recommended approval to rezone the entirety of these 48 parcels to M2 heavy manufacturing. Now, the reason for this is right now, just so everyone's aware, there are 19 M2 parcels that will remain M2. There's 11 M1 parcels that will shift. There are 11 R2 parcels, and then there are 7 parcels that are split zoned between M1 and R2. Now, to distill this to its simplest terms here, it's really just changing the residential. That's essentially what this boils down to. Because ultimately, what our proposal is going to be in conjunction with the rezoning, and Don and I are working on the zoning application right now, which we expect to submit in the next couple weeks. But essentially what the proposal is, Sam, if you can do me a favor and do page 3 for me. All right. So, or page 3 on your packets too. Might be easier to see. But essentially, the 48 parcels will be consolidated to 4 separate lots. There will be a lot on the right side of Sylvia Ave, which, by the way, we are going to improve and extend, which will be a small warehouse. There'll be a larger warehouse towards the rear of the lot all along the left side of Sylvia Ave. There's going to be a smaller facility when you approach the front of the property, which will either be a warehouse or some sort of a truck repair facility, and there will be a brewery to the bottom of the lot. And each of these uses are permitted in the M1 or M2 district, so there's no differentiation between M1 and M2 as far as our project. And within M1 and M2, all of the setbacks are the same, the coverages are the same, building size, building height, everything is the same. So essentially what this boils down to is changing the parcels towards the rear of our total property from residential to a manufacturing use. If we can go to the second page here. Actually, sorry, the first page. All right, so you see the residential parcels are towards the rear. To be candid, these don't really make a whole lot of sense as currently zoned because let's say this is all developed. The only access to these parcels is through Sylvia Avenue, where you would have industrial uses. So Sylvia was right here where my laser pen is, right along the middle. You'd have industrial uses all through here. You'd also have the rear of commercial uses along Bristol Pike. So this R2 area, which seems like an extension of the residential up top, there's a canal separating them. So it's not as if it's joining a nearby residential area. This is an island of residential interspersed between commercial and industrial uses. So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it also wouldn't make sense to change the zoning to commercial because, again, this does not front on a major roadway. It fronts on Sylvia Ave, which is only partially improved. And obviously there are residences at the mouth of the roadway too. So you don't want something that's going to be overly high impact as well. So M2 makes a lot of sense here. It conforms with the remainder of the zoning of most of our lot. And again, all the uses between M1 and M2 are generally the same as well. So with that, we're asking for a recommended approval here this evening. Obviously, if the commission has any questions, I'll be more than happy to address those. And I have my client here as well. And we look forward to hopefully, provided that the rezoning is approved ultimately by council, proceeding for you with an eventual land development too. Thank you.
Bruce. Council, you've heard the presentation. Do you have any questions or comments? Okay. I am curious, Mr. Simmons, I do have one question. Because reading what was presented to us, I was under the impression at one point all that was already in M2
M1,
or an M1 way back when?
Here,
prior to
Don, why
2000.
don't you take the microphone, just in case they don't know.
Sometime in the early 2000s, the township changed the zoning from R2, or excuse me, from M1 to R2. Have no clue, wasn't notified.
And I
I'm just
noticed
dealing with, I'm just dealing with what the facts are today.
Right, and I noticed that in the
Correct.
information that we got, that you were not even aware
Right.
that they did that. Because
And-
I asked that question, why was it, if you're changing it back, why was it changed in the first place?
Can't answer.
So, and that's good.
What I
You don't
can tell you, though, if you do change it to the M2 back, I believe the engineers will verify that I am following all the zoning ordinances on lots 1 and 4, and even the canal enhancement, so there wouldn't be any waivers there. The only waivers that are for zoning relief would appear in the existing M2 zonings for lot 2 and 3. That's already M2, and
We're
that's
not
a
gonna,
future.
yeah, and so we don't really
Yeah,
need to get into that.
just the
now, but-
parts that you're concerned with, I follow all the rules and regulations
Thank
too.
you. I mean, it's just a question that caught my, when I heard it, I'm thinking, why would they do that? Well,
Yeah.
anyway, thank you for not having the answer. That's good. That means I don't have to worry about it. So commissioners, you've heard the presentations. Sam, do you have anything? Kurt? All right. I'm not hearing anything from anyone in the audience. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion. I'd like to recommend the council for Environmental Alternative Solutions Incorporated at 1226 Bristol Pike, Bensalem, PA, for the request, to approve the request to rezone 28 parcels from R2 residential and M1 light industrial zoning districts to an M2 heavy manufacturing zoning district on the property located on Sylvie Ave, Levittown, Pennsylvania. Tax parcels 5-74-50 through 5-74-61, 5-74-70 through 5-74-81, and 5-74-96 through 5-74-99.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? It's been moved in second. Any comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Having nothing else on our agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moved in second. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Meeting is adjourned.
Gotta be quicker than that, George.